In other nuggets of this particular course, we've been a little sloppy. Yeah, we have been utilizing the built-in godlike root account. Yeah, that root account has every privilege you could imagine on the device. This is not an account we would want to use for everyday access. This is not an account we would want to grant that ever popular junior admin in our network. In this nugget, let's explore the different user accounts that we can set up. And most importantly, I think, let's take a look at the overall user authentication methods that are available to us on the Juniper devices. So here we are on a Juniper device, and we're doing it again. Yep, we're using that root user account, but that's okay because we're going to solve that in this particular nugget. But let's take a look at the authentication methods that are available to us. So I'll do the CLI here, and I'm going to go ahead into our configure mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say set system authentication order. And we're going to take a look at our options for authentication, and we're going to order them appropriately for our environment. Notice we can have external authentication sources. This is so cool. You can have a TACACS Plus or a Radius server set up on your network. And guess what? A Juniper device could fulfill this role for you. So you could have all of your user accounts centralized, and when you go to log into this particular device, you can have this device reach out, check with the Radius server or the TACACS Plus server, whichever protocol that you prefer to use from a security perspective, and that user account can be checked against that centralized database. This is awesome. Now notice there's traditional password authentication. We refer to this as local authentication because we would be creating the user account and the password locally on this device. This is often referred to as a fallback or a last resort methodology. The reason why that's true is if we did something like this, if we set the authentication order as please do TAC Plus first, and then do Radius. So if we set it this way, then what'll happen is it will try the TACACS Plus server. It will try the Radius server. If there's a reject from the TACACS Plus or there's just no response from the TACACS Plus, it'll go to the Radius. Now, let's say there is no response from the TACACS Plus and no response from the Radius. So these servers are dead in the water in our network. It will automatically at that point go to the traditional password authentication as a last resort. Notice the key to how I described that though. Those servers are unavailable. So the Juniper device kind of panics there and says, all right, we better fall back to the local. If TACACS Plus says you're not getting in, and Radius says, no, you're not getting in, then it would not fall back to the password because we haven't configured that, and those authentication sources are saying, no, you can't come in. So there's a big difference here between no, you can't come in, or the TACACS Plus or the Radius server is unavailable. What a lot of people will do, of course, is they'll go ahead and configure a fallback situation so that if the TACACS Plus rejects and the Radius rejects, they can still get in with the local password. So this would be the authentication order that you would see a lot of people set. We can see that, of course, once we set it, we can verify it with, of course, show system authentication order. And it says, okay, here's the authentication order that you have configured. But let's solve something here, and that is we need some local user accounts. Yeah, we got to get away from this root user account for reasons I've described. So creating our user accounts is simple. We're going to go into the area of the hierarchy called System, if I could spell today, Login. So we're going to go edit system login to go into that area of the hierarchy, and we're going to say set user, and I always use my brother, John Sequeira. So let's set user John S, And now let's examine our login classes. Your login classes are groups, if you will, that give particular permissions. For instance, the operator gets permissions like clear, network, reset, trace, view. View allows them to see things like configurations. Network allows them access via things like telnet. Reset, clear, you get the idea. Read only allows viewing only. Super user can do everything, and then a little unauthorized that gets no permission. It's kind of like a placeholder, I guess. You could create the user account, make it unauthorized. Then when you actually want to kick it into gear, you could put it in another login class. I'm going to teach you how to make your own login classes. You're going to like that. And keep in mind that you can override all of the permissions that are here. You can manipulate the permissions of these built-in login classes. I would recommend you don't do that, though. Why not create your own login class that has exactly the particular permissions that you would like that user to have? Pretty cool. So my brother John, of course, is a super user. So we will create this John S in the super user class. We can do things like go in and provide his full name. So there's lots of options that we can add to this, like full name. This is great. And I'll say that is, of course, John Sequeira. There we go. And we can, of course, set this user's password at this point, and that would be the plain text password. And I'm missing something. Yeah, how about authentication? There we go. Plain text password. And now, of course, it'll prompt us for his password. So we provide that, and we have just set up this John S user account. I am in the system login area now. So for verification, of course, all I got to do is show. And I see that I've created the John Sequeira user account. It is a super user account. We have set a password, and it's, of course, showing it to us right here in encrypted form so that someone just looking at this configuration can't grab the John S password. I love it. We should probably give this particular device a name, by the way. Let's exit one level. Let's go into Edit, System. And why don't we give this device a host name? That would be nice. This is our Juniper device. All right, well, I'm super happy with our changes here. So we're going to commit and quit this particular configuration. And it says, uh-oh, you didn't do the root authentication password for our root account. Uh-oh, let's take care of that. Gotta love the verification checking that happens here. So we're gonna say set system. We're already in system, so we say set root authentication, and let's set up the root password. All right, thank you very much. We're ready to go ahead and commit and quit. So we have committed that configuration. Here we are at the login prompt. How exciting. We're ready to log in with something other than the root account. So we're going to log in with John S, the John S password that we set. And here we are at the operational prompt. Now, one thing that's cool is Juniper took it upon itself to create a directory on the file system for this particular user. So if I do a file list, it's in the var folder, and it's actually the home subfolder. So look at this. Inside of var and then home, there is a John S directory for this particular user to store their files that they may be creating on this particular device. Pretty cool. You could actually change that CLI directory for this user with set CLI directory if you wanted. Now, this particular user, John S, is in that super users login class, so they would be able to do everything. Let's kind of prove that. They can issue the configure command, and they could, let's say, go into system, look at this, and they could make configuration changes to the system because of their super user privileges. Now, speaking of privileges, remember we can manipulate the privileges that are assigned to a particular user through their login class. We can use the deny command statement, the allow command statement, the deny configuration statement, or the allow configuration statement in order to define regular expressions that match operational commands or configuration commands that the particular person can do. But I really like the idea of you being able to create your own login class and assign that custom login class just what you want that user to be able to do. So I'm still logged in as John S., a super user who would certainly have permissions to manipulate the login classes. So let me go ahead and edit system login, and we are going to set class. And again, get context-sensitive help if you need it. The login class name, I'm going to be super clever here. This is our custom class 1, the most boring name possible. And notice we can go ahead and provide the specific permissions to this custom class. We start with the bracket once again, and I can get my context-sensitive help. And look at this. This is a great study guide for us because it shows us for a particular permission what that enables. So for the configure, of course, we can enter configuration mode. For network, it controls access to the network. So this is pretty cool. Notice there's security, can view the security configuration, and security control can modify the security configuration. So for this custom class, I might say, okay, I need them to be able to configure. I need them to be able to view. I would like them to view security configuration, and I would like them to make security control changes. So we can set up the particular permissions that we would like for this particular new custom class, hit the enter key, and now, of course, when we are creating a user account, let's do set user test, and we go to class, we can see our custom class is available for assignment to that particular user. So we took a look at quite a bit in this nugget, didn't we? We discussed the possible user authentication methodologies. We saw how we can manipulate that order, and we discussed how the fallback mechanisms work there. We took a look at user accounts and login classes as well. I sure hope this nugget was informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.